everyone, it's Sylvia here from Casino Library and welcome to Tangles on Tuesday. In this series, we're going to take you through the process of creating beautiful art pieces known as Zentangle. So last week, we learnt the holly bar, which was our series of lines that appear to be weaving under each other, and we also did crescent moon. This week, with our practice sheet, we're going to be looking at Knightsbridge. Now, this is an easy tangle to learn. You just need to take care with the colouring or the shading that comes later. So we're going to take our 0.1 pen and our practice sheet. The Knightsbridge consists of a series of grid lines. Now, those lines can be straight, they can be curved. The variation comes with the way you draw those grid lines. So by varying the size of the grid, you will vary the appearance of your Knightsbridge. So I'm just drawing a series of lines to begin, going across one way on my practice tile, and then I'm going to come back the other way doing my lines. So my lines are going to cross back this way. So you can see there I've deliberately varied the width of my line, so you can see the variation that you get once we start to move forward with our tangle. So now the lines that I draw are going to go the other way. So looking at those lines traveling across and giving them some movement. And you'll also notice that those lines do not have to be accurately spaced. It will simply add more interest to your tangle as you move along. And a bit like when we draw our string, which are the lines that divide our working space, we can come back in and add some more lines if we feel that we want to with this Knightsbridge. But I'm just going to leave it like that for now. So that's one example of doing your grids. All we have to do then is simply colour alternate spaces. So in doing that, the way I like to keep track of where I'm up to is I'll choose my first row or my first line and I'll colour one, and I'll leave one blank, colour one, leave one blank. So then when it comes to my next row, if I've coloured this one, I'm going to leave this one blank and colour this one, leave this one blank, colour, leave blank, and so on. So that's the pattern that you're repeating. And to do that, these spaces are a little bit larger, so I'm actually going to take my Sharpie pen. I'm going to start shading a couple of those spaces for you, and I will pop back shortly to show you what that will start to look like. Okay, so I've started shading my Knightsbridge. As you can see, I've shaded every second space in one row. And then when I've moved down, so every second space in this row, and then I've done the alternate in the next row, leaving the one under it blank, and this one that's blank, I've coloured under it, so you can get the idea. Now you don't have to colour them in a solid block like that if you don't want to. I'll just show you another variation with that. So if I grab my fine tip pen again, I'm going to draw another grid for us, and I'm going to do the lines a little bit more closely. So again, you can see the difference that it creates, and it's great. Knightsbridge is great if you've got a big area to fill. I've often used it on scrapbook pages. Just find it's a nice way to fill a large space, and it is really relaxing once you get into the rhythm of colouring those alternate spaces. And look, if you're really concerned that you're going to muck it up, and trust me, I have coloured one right next to the other before, what you could do, and what I suggest you might like to do to get used to it, is to take your pencil and maybe just do a dot in each one that you need to colour. So I'd put a dot in this first one, come down to my next row, put a small dot in those ones. My next row, this one will be coloured, so I know that I'll have to leave that one blank, which means this would be coloured, blank, blank, and this one back here would be coloured, and so on. That may just help you. So you can see how those grid lines have been drawn much closer together this time. And what I'll do is keep working with my fine tip pen. What I'll do is I'll just do one here to show you on the first one that we did. Just doing some hatch lines again, depending on how you space your lines will depend on the finished look that you get. You do your lines closer together, it'll look totally different than if you do them further apart, or you may choose to vary them as you go. So you can see there, it does give you a totally different effect as to the solid shading. But again, it's a matter of personal preference, entirely up to you. This smaller one, I'll just do a couple of more hatch lines to show you again. There is no right or wrong when it comes to the Zentangle. This is your work. Only you have to be happy with it. All right, so that gives you an idea of Knightsbridge. The next tangle that I'd like to show you is called Tipple. And this is one of the most useful tangles you can learn, as it's made up of a series of circles. My tip with this tangle is to take your time, do it carefully, and vary the size of your circles. Also make sure that each circle that you draw touches the other one or ones that it's next to. But varying the size of your circles is one of the characteristics of this tangle. So I've just started there, just doing some random size circles. And if I'm drawing a circle and it looks like it would sit underneath another one, I just imagine where that line would come around. I don't actually draw through another circle with it. A bit like this one here, this small one tucked in there. So you just keep doing. So it's just a matter of drawing those different size circles. You might find it easier to draw a series of larger ones and come back in and fill the spaces, but sometimes you can get a bit caught and trick yourself and box yourself in with something that looks very structured. You just want to take your time, draw each one, and try and keep it looking free and flowing, not something that you've thought about too much. As I said, it's great for filling if you've just got a small space you want to fill, or you have a larger space. This is a great one just to have in your repertoire. So you can see there, that's how that tangle starts to take shape. You could shade some of them if you wanted to. You could start shading some of the larger ones for effect, but shading something that will look at further along in this series. We'll come back to the Holy Bar and Crescent Moon and some of the other tangles that we learn along the way, and I'll show you shading and how that can give you a totally different look. So I'll just go ahead and do a bit more of this one for you, and I'll be back shortly. Okay, so I've done some more of that tangle there for you, the tipple. I'm not going to fill in all of that space, but that gives you an idea of how that will end up looking. So again, a nice easy tangle to get you started on your Zentangle journey. Now you remember from last week where I showed you a completed tile combining our two first tangles that we learnt. our holly bar here and our crescent moon here. Now what I'm going to show you today is a tile there where I have drawn my border in, and I've added a string that you can see here. Now that string has broken our working space down into 4 areas. And what I'd like you to do is to work each of the 4 tangles that we've learnt up until now. So that's the holly bar, the crescent moon, the Knightsbridge and Tipple, and decide which of those you would like to do in each of these 4 spaces. Now I'm thinking that this being the smaller space, that's where I would do my tipple, the circle, so filling in that space there. And then deciding whether you'd like your holly bar or your crescent moon and your Knightsbridge, where you'd like those to be in those remaining 3 spaces. If you'd like to share your work with us, please upload a copy in the comments below, because we'd love to see what you're creating. So when we meet again next week, I will have created my 4 tangles in each of these spaces, and we can have a look together at what we've come up with. So that would be my suggestion, is just start here with tipple, and that will leave you Knightsbridge, holly bar and crescent moon in the remaining 3 spaces. And also remember that your strings are just a guide. You can go over them if you wish to.
In the comments below, you'll find a link to the practice sheet that I've been using here today. If you're unable to access these from your computer at home, we'll make some packs available. All you have to do is give us a call on 666 00 250 and give us a day or 2 to get those ready for you. That pack will also include some pre-cut 3.5 by 3.5 inch tiles to get you started. If you'd like to do some more reading on Zentangle, there is a great selection of books available at the library, and we also have a Hobbies and Crafts Reference Centre, which is a part of our e-resources that are available on our library website. And remember, if you'd like to receive instant updates when new content is added to our YouTube channel, please click the subscribe button. Thanks for joining us here today, and we'll see you next week for another Tangles on Tuesday.